Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC Friday Night Fan Forum. We've got Andy, Pleiadi, Atanu joining us. How's everybody doing? Okay?
Not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
I think there is a delay on Pleiadi, so let's see if he answers shortly.
Yeah, I'm doing well as well.
Awesome. Nice one. Hello, Karen, in the comments. First of all, just a cracking show last night. We had 450 people watch that video already. So it was an amazing show.
Yeah.
Emma Sanders jumped on as well. And it was just great to see everybody joining in, reliving a few of their favourite bits of All For United, but also getting the lowdown of some of the latest news as well. So if you haven't checked that one out, please do, because a lot of people have given some good feedback on that one. So please check that out. As for today, I've got a few topics in mind. You can see them scrolling along the bottom. So we'll start off with the thumbnail. We'll start off with Andy. LJ, thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I mean, she's apparently gone, but I think the last people that are going to know is when Man United women put it up there. I mean, to be honest, she might be getting a testimonial for Chelsea women by the time Man United officially say she's gone. You never know. But I mean, depending on what you see on Twitter, she's either gone for 50 grand plus other player, Beth England, or 100 to 200 grand plus with various different implements plus another player, probably Beth England. I mean, obviously, people might say, you're going to be a bit salty because you've lost a good player and this kind of thing. And it's not that. I'm coming from an experience of, following, United before COVID, home and away with the Barmy Army, not missing a home game, really. And certainly from the first half of the second season. And don't get me wrong, she has the potential to be a fantastic player, a world-class player. But there are problems. And to be honest, if it's a top number, if it's 200 grand plus Beth England, for example, which just is below the Pernille Harder transfer amount, I think we're laughing all the way to the bank, actually, on that. Now, why do you say that? Well, she doesn't pass. Tends not to, and really doesn't. And it was almost like a bit of a joke when we were in the stands together. She gets on goal and she'll go into a corner and just not pass, basically. And I don't know when she plays better defense. Like, basically, she would get away with it in the Championship because the defense wasn't good enough. She could do the Pepsi advert, score. You can't do that. You can't do that in the WSL for the top half of the WSL. If she gets access to the Champions League, again, playing Wolfsburg, it's not going to happen. So there's that obvious thing. And I personally, I'm just a fan. I have no qualifications to back this up. But I personally don't see the stamina for 90 minutes at the moment. And the conditioning sits a bit below average compared to some of the rest of her peers. So if we've moved on with LJ and we've now got Beth England, who's 27 years old, who played 6, scored 3 in the Champions League, who has been in and around the England setup, you're going to have potentially at least another 6 years before a significant decline. As the ability will want to prove herself because she's going to suddenly get a lot of time, like Mary Ertz on the bench for Wolfsburg, and then suddenly she came number 1. Beth England will get a lot of playing time. And I think we could have got the best end of the deal. And that's not me being salty. That's me actually sitting there and thinking about it and having some experience of following her around and seeing what the situation is. And I don't know how much patience Chelsea's got, how much space in their squad they've got to develop. So it might even be the best move for her, but I'll be interested to see what people think.
If I can come in on that one first, I can definitely see your point there, Andy. I think a lot of people are basing LJ's talent on hope, like where she's going to be in the future, maybe. I think at the moment she is a great player, but she didn't bang in loads of goals last season for us. Admittedly, it was down to injury. I still don't know where her best position is, because if she had stayed with us, I'll still put Russo up top. I'll still put Galton on left wing, and she's not going to compete with Hanson or Tierney on right wing, because that's not really a position. So to say that she can't even get into the starting lineup when everyone's fit, I think that's unusual for someone potentially so good. I'd always put Tooney at the moment as a central attacking midfielder. But yeah, I'll probably more likely try and put LJ in that central attacking midfield position if Tooney wasn't there. But we hardly ever see him in that role, do we? I think if there was an LJ Beth England swap, I think what we're getting out of it is a striker, a ready-made striker who can bang in goals right now. And I think that's kind of what we need. We've got a lot of players last summer for the future. I think we've got a lot of youngsters already for the future. I do think that we need people for the now as well. And I think Beth England could possibly bring that. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not gutted to see LJ go. I would like to keep our best talents, and I do think that she is a talent. But there's still doubts on how far she could actually go. We think that she might get to the Champions League level, and potentially she will be, especially if she starts playing out, week in, week out for Chelsea. But I do think it is a gamble there. 50 grand, potentially rising to 200 grand with a player. I think that's a decent amount. Friday, let's bring you in. We haven't spoken for ages. First of all, how are you doing? And,
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, I mean, I really can't disagree much with what's been said on LJ here. I think, it's a pity to see someone who's that young. I think she's 19 or 20. So to see someone that young, move away from a side that was supposed to be growing, that's probably not the best thing to see. But I guess if you're getting a ready-made striker and added to that, I mean, since the last time we spoke, I think we've seen a lot more outgoings, and we saw, I think, the two Americans leave, especially Christian Press and Tobin. So you're losing out, world-class strikers over there to get someone who can score and to get you those kind of goals, and maybe isn't as injury-prone as an LJ or someone else there. That probably would help Manchester United. But then at the end of the day, I don't know. It's too easy to say that you're probably getting the best out of this deal right now. I think we'll only come to know about it next season. But yeah, I think for now, as long as you're getting any sort of incomings, it'll probably be a plus given the sort of business that Manchester United women's team is doing this transfer window.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to the incomings shortly when I do my topic. But Atana, what are your thoughts on this sense? It looks like it's all confirmed now. We've got the kind of that money situation. Last I heard, it was 50 grand plus add-ons, which could boost you up to 200 grand plus a player. We're all presuming it was Beth England. We said Beth England months ago, where we knew LJ was going one direction. We knew that we was losing strikers. So I would say we didn't know it was going to happen, but we presumed, because we put two and two together, that a striker needs to come the opposite way. Another part of me thought it might not be Beth England, because with this 8-player homegrown rule next season, Chelsea might want to keep some English players as well. So it might not be Beth England, it might be somebody else. But what would your thoughts be, Atanu, if it was a bit of a swap with that amount of money? Could you kind of see the positives of losing LJ then?
I mean, I honestly didn't want LJ to leave, but of course she wants to move to London, so we can't actually disagree with that. But at the end of the day, if there is a player swap plus cash happening, then why not? LJ goes to Chelsea. She wants to play in London, so she can play there. And Bethany England, if Beth England comes our way, then it will be a good deal for us, I think, because of course she isn't getting the game time that she deserves over at Chelsea. But at the same time, we might get her, and there'll be a lot of competition. And of course, we have lost 4 strikers this season in terms of outgoings: Jane Ross, Jessica Sixworth, Tobin Heath, and Christian Press. As I said Jade Ross' name, Andy was laughing. So
it's just remembering that she's technically a striker, because I'm still waiting for it to become one, to be honest, and she's left. But there you go.
So yeah, so 4 players we have lost out of 5 who are strikers. So I think getting Bethany England, and she's a wonderful talent from what I've heard. So yeah, a good deal, but at the same time, I'm gutted that Lauren James has left.
And on that, I'm guessing you're not going to Scotland to watch her debut for Rangers then?
It isn't personal. I hope she does great for Rangers, but it's a different world up there, and I'm just remembering how much that we possibly missed out on by making that mistake by bringing her in, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, going back to what we were saying about LJ, yeah, I mean, obviously you can't tell now if it's a good or a bad deal. It's just my initial thoughts on it. But I think also the other thing that people need to remember, not necessarily people here, but generally that we've heard, it's almost like because these outgoings have been done staggered by United, they haven't been the one tweet shopping list that Spurs did, for example. It kind of makes people feel like they're seeing the state of United and they're going, I'm leaving. Yeah. It's all been agreed previously. So I think it's what helps, what causes a bit of anxiety, because it kind of feels like everybody's leaving a sinking ship, but they're not. It's just the timings of these, you know, it's all been agreed. They've just decided to announce the timings in a weird way. Obviously, we're waiting on for the manager. We might, it's apparently, you know, arranging personal terms at the moment, and you know, and then suddenly we're going to get a load of incomings. We're going to get like the 6 incomings. We're going to get told in about 3 days probably who they are, or 6 days who they are, and it's going to feel like everybody's running United again. And it'll be really positive, and we'll be like, yeah, look at these people that are coming in. It's just, I think it's just basic psychology. But I'll be interested in Brady. Obviously, I see a crest that might not be as popular with United fans on your wall. But you know, it's fair play, a bit of banter there. But apparently, Beth England was on loan for Liverpool for a bit, so she's obviously used to having to fight her way back into the team, and she played better for Chelsea when she came back from Liverpool. I don't know if you following the women's game at that point, or if you know.
I wasn't. I don't think. Yeah. No, I get your point as well. I think we're talking about this outgoings and incomings part, and yeah, it did feel like, because of all of the media stories that are coming out there saying that, you know, the players had gone to the PFA, they were quite disgusted by it, and then you had a lot of people, and then suddenly one by one you have players leaving. It kind of, I think it's all media, it's all driven by the media narrative, like you mentioned. It's probably behind doors, it's all been, you know, agreed beforehand, and it's just the way the media's portrayed things to be. And it feels like, for any neutral reading the news, it feels like this just feels like what's the word? It starts with C, but I'm forgetting about it. So it just feels like in a chronological order. So it just feels like one step, and it's a domino effect of sorts. But I can definitely say, but it's just it's slightly worrying that we're already midway through July, and I mean, personal terms are just being agreed with the manager, and then we're only guessing that incomings would come post that, depending on who the manager is and what's been agreed regarding that. But yeah, I think that's kind of a little worrying to see in a way, because we all know United's lack of enthusiasm in the transfer market, at least for the men's game. And you know, just even as a Liverpool fan, I just want to see the women's game grow, and to see United do so well for the past couple of years, and then to see them, you know, backstep take 4 steps back instead of just maybe even half a step. That's kind of bad to see.
I think Fader makes a good point, and Andy, I'll bring you back in on this because you've just kind of mentioned it as well. But I think as a neutral, someone who doesn't follow Man United women's team season in, season out, I can see why Brady just mentioned that, because I've got Man United men's team supporters who say, what's going on with United? And I think because Man United women's team have grown so much on social media over the last 12 months, more people are getting interested in it, but they don't know enough about women's football to actually know what the transfers and what the contracts are like. So for us, it's kind of normal. We'd have liked to have seen all the outs a little bit closer together. I think last season it was probably pretty much announced over the space of 2 weeks, every one of them. Maybe even 1 week, whereas this way it has kind of stretched out. And then we've got the sale of LJ and potentially even more going out as well next week or whenever that's going to be. And I do understand it, and it's something worth mentioning, because for maybe like me and you, Andy, it's kind of normal to see all the outs go first, and then obviously the ins come in. Obviously, I think because of all the stuff that's gone on behind the scenes with Casey Stoney leaving as well, it's probably hindered a few of those plans, or probably put like a bit of a stop on some of those plans. Players who may have been out of contract, who was potentially on a 1 year extension, they may want to speak to that new manager first. Do you want to extend this player before we let her go? And I think that's kind of a little bit worrying. But the fact that we've got so many players leaving, that to me doesn't worry me. And I remember sitting here with a lot of United fans on this channel for quite a few times saying we need a big clear out in the summer, because and we called it ourselves, 10 players could potentially go, and that could still happen. No, I'm not saying that we wanted these particular 10 players to go. I mean, who wants the likes of LJ, Preston Heath to go? But we did know that LJ obviously wants to move close to home. We know that Preston Heath was only here for 1 year. Obviously, we'd like for them to stay, longer. But that meltdown with so many players leaving and potentially a couple more before any new signings come in, that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's a meltdown by maybe fans who aren't that knowledgeable. They're really keen on United, which is great, but they still don't really know exactly how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a culture change. I mean, at the end of the day, with the men's game, because it's more established and you've got more money in it and such, like, you have a team that you have additions to make that team better. You have a core team that you grow up through a certain age range. You might have a few that drop off, a few youngsters you bring through, but you're sort of adding bits to it, like a painting kind of thing. You sort of a bit of red here, but you're doing that a little bit. With the women, unfortunately, because the professionalism has only been there for a few years with the WSL, it's more likely you kind of, starting again each year, almost like an American college football. You get you go through a few seasons, then they graduate, and you've got a load of newbies again, and you've got to start a culture, start a team again. And I think eventually it'll move more to the men's, where you have a core group. You already see it with some clubs, like with Arsenal and Chelsea, where there is more of a core group of team, and you're adding to the team like you would in the men's. You have people aspiring of a team. But yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking when Prey was saying what he was saying. Hopefully, the personal team isn't because United have been lazy. Maybe it's someone who's actually quite busy at the moment, which might mean somebody in America, an NWSL manager who's still playing. Maybe hopeful, you never know. Could be someone in relation to a national team manager for around Olympics, or it could be because United have been crap in relation to timing. I'm just posing it out there. Maybe another reason, and this is more negative towards United, but maybe that when they got Casey Stoney in, and they knew her pedigree and then as a player, and they knew what the type of person she was going to be, and we got promoted in the first season, they were like, "Oh, women's team sorted now for a few years." And then suddenly, when she left, they were like, "Oh crap! Like, how'd you find the manager again in the women's team? Does anyone know? Has anyone got a contact? And then suddenly it's like, oh shit, what month is it? When I'm in June, May, oh shit, it's July. Oh crap!
That's possible.
Maybe it's that. you just don't know.
I have to jump on that and agree with you, because we all says that Casey does a lot behind the scenes that maybe she wasn't probably expected to do, or she didn't have much support doing those. And I'm not saying every women's football team does that, but I think Casey does a lot more than maybe some other teams. With a brand new team, we know that she helped set it up, obviously from the beginning. And all of a sudden, when she goes, it's not just coaching day in, day out, it's all the things behind the scenes. Whenever a decision had to be made for the women's team, I'm sure it went through Casey. Whether or not she agreed with that decision is probably a different topic, but I'm sure that the decisions kind of went through her. Whereas not necessarily, like I say, I don't think she had the final say, but I do think they would have at least liaised with her. Now, there's no one there at all, no manager and no one above. So I do think that we need to bring in not only a new manager, but someone to kind of complement that manager higher up who knows a bit about women's football. Thank you to everybody in the comments, by the way. I got quite a few people watching and quite a few people commenting. Atano, what's your topic for tonight, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about Alessia Russo and Ivana Fuso because they haven't played much in the last season. And I know they are quite young, and the injuries on the training pitches were a reason that they weren't able to get some game time. But, I want to see them play more often the next season. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the training facilities will improve, and, we'll not get those injuries on the training pitches that we got this season. And I mean, let's talk about Alessia Russo. The minute she came in, she started scoring all these goals. I think she played 4 games and scored 3 goals. and a brace came against West Ham United as well. So I mean, if she can perform like this, she can carry on the momentum for a whole season. Maybe she is a contender for the Golden Boot. And in those games like the Reading game that we lost 2-0, or the Birmingham game, I think we lost 1-0 if I'm not wrong. The penalty that Birmingham got, I don't know whether it was Birmingham game or not. But these games are the ones that we should be winning, and these are the games that we weren't able to score in last season. So having a striker like Alessia Russo, and maybe hopefully we'll get a Bethany England. So of course they'll score more often, and we'll get the goals and we'll get the win. And at the same time, I've seen Ivana Fuso play not much. I think when she played for Brazil in the She Believes Cup, she played as a midfielder. She's quite young, like she's 20 years old, and we still don't know what her main position is. So I want to watch Ivana Fuso play, whether she's a striker, whether she is a winger, or maybe she can flourish in the midfield role. But I want to see her get that first goal for United. And I mean, at the end of the day, we are a young squad if we think about it. We've got the likes of Tooney, Russo, Fuso, who are all younger than 25 years old. And at the same time, I think we need to bring in some experience, so that like I said in the last show as well, that when we had the likes of Tobinith and Kristen Place, the young players performed a lot better than we had expectations from them. So I think I'll be rooting for Alessia Russo to get that golden boot if we are able to prevent an injury to her on the training pitch or on the field as well. And I want to see Ivana Fuso score a goal in the WSL.
Fadi, I know you're not a United fan. I know you might not have seen too much about Russo and Fuso, but I think Italia's kind of summarised them up quite well there. I think Russo, I think, will be our number 9 next season. She's an out-and-out goal scorer, but she's also played on the wing as well to make room for, I think it was probably Press at the time, maybe. We're putting a lot of hopes on Russo next season. We also mentioned that there will probably be 5 strikers that's going to leave this season. I hate saying this, but when 2 players are off injured the season before and all of a sudden they come back, it's almost like a new signing. And I hate saying that because it's a way for the Glazers not to spend any money and this, that and the other. We see it on the men's team all the time. But it will be like 2 new signings. So we've got 2 players that hardly ever played last season. So that will leave maybe 3 new strikers coming in. We've heard 2 that we've linked to. Brady, can you kind of see that happening? Just like maybe a club just thinking to themselves, right, well, we've got 2 strikers coming back. What we need to do now is maybe buy 2 more strikers, get this LJ Beth England swap deal done, and that's all our strikers sorted.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a point of contention to get the balance right. So you obviously want to have your youth squad or your academy players or your young talent rise up through the ranks, but you need to complement them with someone who's very, very who's proven at least in the big games. And we're talking about Manchester United women's football team, a team that's last year almost challenged for the title. After a few months, I mean, since February at least, was challenging for a Champions League spot and was very close to getting one. So you do want players who can help you achieve that step, at least, if not the title next year, at least the next step would be getting you Champions League football. And how do you do that? You can't rely solely on youth talent, so you need to complement that. So it kind of also, so I can see that happening. And also I say that because, like Andy mentioned, I think the women's game is, I think one of the key characteristics of the women's game, and I've said this time and time again, is that there's a lot of turnover in terms of players. So like Andy mentioned, I think only Chelsea and Arsenal probably the ones, and maybe City right now recently, are the ones who have started this retention policy of keeping core players or keeping at least a decent number of players for another season. Whereas a lot of teams, you see that there's a lot of shuffling between amongst players so from team to team. So I can see that happening. It's very possible, especially in the women's game. If you said this in the men's game, I'd say, no one's going to give you 3 strikers because that's mad.
Yeah.
The only, like I said, I mean, I do understand why, neutrals and even Manchester United men's team supporters would be like a little bewildered as to why are there so many outgoings. I know that from the women's game that there's a lot of turnover, but I feel like that I just lost my train of thought here. The real concern for me was that there's no manager that's been appointed, and we all know how important that is. Now, again, I said this, I think, when I came onto your show earlier as well. It's so vital that Manchester United sign a good, experienced manager, one who's able to attract players. Now, in the women's game, it's easier to get players, like I mentioned, because they keep switching clubs, so it's easy to get them. But if you want the experienced players, you want Beth Englands, and you want people who've played at the highest level to come to your team, you need a manager who's capable enough to attract them and then also play them to their potential. So yes, I can see that happening. You can get 5 strikers, you can get 10 strikers in the women's game. It's pretty easily, I won't say they're easily available, but it's easier to do it than in the men's game. And also, I was looking at the numbers for LJ, and we're talking about 200,000. Now, if I mention something like 200,000 in the in the women's game, so if I talk about 200,000 in the men's game, that's somebody's weekly wages. Okay? And here we're talking about a transfer business. So in terms of money, United can spend 200,000 on 10 players. They're still not breaking the bank for any of them, in the sense that it'll be record money for the women's game, but they're not going and spending 200 million on 10 players. So it is possible. This is all possible. But for me, I always say that the first step is to assign a manager. And I know we're talking about personal terms being agreed, but personal terms were agreed with Jadon Sancho for 12 to 14 months before as well. And we all saw that how long it took for that transfer to happen. I'm not saying that's going to take, if it takes 12 to 14 months, God help Manchester United Women's Football Club. But I'm just saying that, the sooner that happens, the sooner you get your 5 strikers.
I definitely agree with your point regarding we need that manager in who can attract players, because that's kind of the way we've done it. Everyone has come to the club because of Casey. Obviously, Casey's gone now. We're not in Champions League, so they're not going to come for Champions League. They're not going to come from all the things that they're hearing on social media and reading on social media. So yes, they should come just because it's Man United, but of course some players want to see what managers they're going to be playing with, don't they? So I definitely agree with that one. There's a couple of comments that we want to jump into. If I answer one and then Andy can answer one. Do I think Maria Edwards will be in the squad to get games? I'd love to see her in the squad to get games, but I'd also kind of like to see her on loan in the WSL this season to try and get some games in maybe a lower league team. Just try and get a bit more practice there, because I'm just thinking, as much as I would like to see her as one of the 5 who would replace all the ones who are outgoing, I just think that maybe she just needs a season actually in the WSL, playing week in, week out, before we actually start relying on her too much. And I know you, Andy, did you want to jump on Stuart's comment?
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting because as we discussed here in the conversation, I think of a bit of a metaphor in relation of like an escalator, really. So LJ's now gone. But then if you look at Ivana, look at her age, look at where she plays, you could argue that she's possibly the next LJ with a Brazilian accent, or I haven't heard her speak actually for a while. What accent she's got. But you get the idea. And actually, if Ollie, something like Gunnar Solskjaer's daughter, which apologies, it flopped up, but I couldn't even see the first name. But if she is good enough to come through, then she's probably going to, there we go. Yeah, she's probably going to come through in a similar position to the way the rest of the academy players have been played. A few minutes, maybe a bit on a cup game, maybe a bit on a Conti Cup game. And to be honest, that's probably one of the areas that United is actually doing quite well with at the minute. They need to give more team. They need to realise quicker when they're ready to move up. But I think they are good at protecting younger players in the academy system and sticking with them as well. So I think, to answer Stuart's question already, probably not next season. But would I want to training with United? Would I want to try and be in the squad? But now, COVID's still an issue, big deal still here. But now the bubble system has possibly changed a bit. I know there was an issue last season because of testing, that if you got them to be in the main team, you had to then test them like main players. So there was a cost involved and that kind of stuff. But I definitely think that she would benefit from being in that culture and having an eye on what happens in the first team, going from the academy side. And I think the main, just based on what you were saying as well, John, that I think the main attraction for any player going to United is game time. It's got that's the big thing that we're going to offer. I'm not saying we'll tell everybody you can play 90 minutes, because at the end of the day you only play 11 players. But there's certain players like a Beth England who have got the super sub mantra, and I never really believed that players like that. They might like coming on and scoring the win, of course, but to be like someone who, you're on the bench. Every player wants to play. So I think, apart from the manager, which is going to be definitely a pull, the biggest thing we can offer those players, we're not in Champions League. We might be next season. Oh, and you're not going to be on the bench unless you're injured. You never say that officially, but I think that's a possibility, and that's our biggest asset, is giving people game time.
And just going on Atano's two players, Andy, Fuso and Russo, next season. What are you kind of hoping to see, and what do you think?
Yeah, I was just looking there when we were just talking. If you look at Russo, played 4, scored 3. Yes, please.
Yeah.
I've forgotten, to be honest. But if we want to keep that ratio up, that would be great, and obviously it's too small. 4 games is not enough to make that comment, but obviously, if we can get the ground running, I think it's going to be interesting how players are going to react in the first couple of weeks of this season throughout the whole WSL, because everybody's suddenly been playing behind closed doors, so suddenly full capacity. Some players, that's going to give them an extra, quite an extra yard. It's going to give them a kick. Others, others might wobble a bit because suddenly there's noise again, and they haven't had a Barmy Army pushing them along or jesting them or slating them. They've not had that for a while, so it's going to be an interesting environment. But I think I'm confident with Russo. I haven't seen enough of Ivana yet, really, to make a decision. However, it's too out of left field to be a complete mistake. She's not a Jane Ross. There's something there that somebody has seen. So that's why I'm thinking maybe she is a long-term replacement for LJ as well. We kind of, if you think Beth England comes in, gives you that ready-made striker now, and if Ivana's development under a new manager can bring her up to somebody who was like LJ, like she's only a year older than LJ, then again, we could have the best of both worlds in that respect.
There's one thing that I just picked up on there that you said, and me and Natalie's mentioned this. I think we mentioned it 3 months ago. We mentioned it last summer about the return of crowds. How are the players going to react? Are they going to be nervous? It's going to be a massive war at Leigh Sports Village, more than any other English ground next season. But also, there's going to be a lot of players there, Andy, that have never played in front of us before. So last season, I'm guessing like Maria Thorisdottir, Lucy Stan, Fuso, Russo, those are the 4 probably from last season. Obviously, all the new signings from this season, they're not used to playing in front of us, are they? And it could affect them. I'm sure they'd much rather be the home team than the away team that's making that noise. So I'm sure they'd rather be, us cheering them than the opposite. But it is going to make a massive effect, and it would be good to see a bit of a pre-season game maybe where they can kind of get used to us a little bit first. And I don't know.
Don't get me started about pre-season. For some reason, the women's game is allergic to pre-season friendlies, and I know they're not the most exciting things in the world, but come on. I noticed that Arsenal are doing a 2-game series, aren't they, for 9 charity? They're letting people come in before their men's game. Can we not just do that? Is that really beyond the wit of man or woman, if whatever you want to, use really? Because you're right, it'd be great to have a pre-season just to get everybody back in. And to be honest, I think that they're going to need it to bread and butter it about getting us in, getting us out. What's it like having crowds again? Because everybody's out of stewards are out of practice and that kind of stuff. But actually, I'd flip what you were saying. I think the biggest benefit or the biggest thing that's going to be a difference is not necessarily when they play at Leeds Sports Village behind us. It's when we go away.
Yeah.
And hopefully we still follow them, if not same or more numbers than last time. And then suddenly they've got a home voice away, which they've definitely not had, obviously. And that I think will help a lot.
Friday,
John, you just forgot one name that hasn't played in front of fans. It's Una Bhatia, star.
Oh yeah.
She'll love it. She's going to be running down that wing non-stop. But if she plays in front of us, she's
tough. She's tough.
She's going to be running from our right to left. That's going to be absolutely amazing. That is. Yeah, I can't wait for that one. Friday, what's your topic, mate?
Well, I think it's pretty much covered, but I was going to talk about the sort of outgoings and the lack of incomings, which we've discussed it, I guess, throughout. I just want a quick comment before that on the Adidas gaff on Turner's clothes. I just want to know, are you going to start boycotting Adidas clothes now, or is it just a genuine mistake? What was it they called her? Amy Turner or someone?
Yeah. I mean, it's not as random as calling her Jane Ross. I mean, it was Turner and Turner. I mean, they have the same surname. I mean, I'm not paid at all. But I'm not paid enough to bloody defend Adidas. Definitely not. And I think that if anyone's actually seen the tweet underneath the gaff when Millie pointed it out, and it's some weird like, oh, it's my badge. You're well loved.
Yeah.
Let's get together and give some of your fans the best shirts.
Yeah.
I mean, really? I mean, that's not what we do, really. I mean, I think that was somebody who's maybe just swallowed a marketing book recently and suddenly thought, let's turn this into an opportunity. No, I mean, I think that. I'm glad that, to be honest, I'm glad that Millie Turner has flagged it up, because I think she's shown a lot of strength there. Because these players need the sponsorship more than the men's to an extent. These sort of side deals. I'm not saying Adidas would have dropped her, but it still takes a lot of guts to say, "Come on, that's a bit ridiculous." I mean, I think it's it's a gaff. Unfortunately, it's not the only gaff. I mean, if we did a drinking game last season, depending on what Honor Batil's surname was based on the commentary team, you'd be paralytic by the end of the first half. Buttle, it's not the Badger. That was the best one. Yeah, Christ. And you just don't know, do you? So, I mean, to sort of pull it together a little bit, it's expected, but it should be better. But I'm glad actually that she's sort of shown a bit of, get it sorted, Adidas, because hopefully it won't happen again, or with other companies. I mean.
It just makes you think. Go on, Tanya, go on.
Yeah, and I think people saying in the comments that okay, it's just a mistake. Mistake is like getting the spelling wrong. Like Millie, you'll miss an I or L, but you're obviously giving her a new identity as such. She's not Amy Turner, and I think Amy Turner also came out with a tweet on this issue, and a lot of players said, "Okay, you are Amy, you are Millie," and that was funny, the banter.
Yeah. I was just gonna. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just don't know how it suddenly got to that stage where it's been printed, put on social media, and no one spotted it until the crowd have alerted Millie, or maybe Millie knew herself and she saw it herself. How's it got to that stage? Because surely, how many people have checked it and read it? Obviously, someone who doesn't care about our women's team, but yet we're still in that partnership with Adidas. Go on, Paddy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if I was Millie, in response to the Adidas comment saying that we'll give you free jerseys to the people you like, I'd have said, as long as it says Millie Turner at the back and not Amy Turner. Like, are you gonna make that mistake again? Because we don't want to.
I get it. It reminds me a few years ago of that advert that Pepsi did, which had protesters in it, but it was the least active protest advert ever. It was like, let's make a noise, who were holding back ours, and it was clear that they weren't know what they were talking about. And it reminded me of that. But I think that I don't know. It wouldn't happen in the men's game, obviously, not just because of them being bigger names, but because of them being bigger money involved. It is possible, actually, joking aside, that the sort of experienced marketeers will be dealing with the men contracts, and it is possible that it's like my first contract that poor sod's just done and got wrong at Adidas, but hopefully they'll be able to sort it out.
Yeah. Hopefully. Let's. I mean, I'm glad though. Like you mentioned that Millie's brought it up, and it's put it out in the social platform, media platform. It's nice that she put it out there on Twitter saying that you guys have royally effed up or whatever, and it's not that she could have easily gone to Manchester United board and said they've made a mistake, and Adidas could have made the slight change. Like you mentioned, I don't think too many people, and it's sad that not many people would have picked it up. I think if it was like a Paul Pogba, someone's name written there before Paul Pogba himself recognized it, the moment it was there on social media, you'd have had millions of comments saying that this is, why you messed it up. But here, I'm sure had Millie gone behind and told the board itself to fix it up, Adidas would have done some slight cover over there, and we wouldn't have noticed it. So I'm glad that way.
I mean, to be honest, the Man United, I'm more of the women's team, but the Man United men's side, Turner will say this, the support's relentless. I saw the pictures were leaked for the new squad, I think, for the new home jersey bloody months ago, it feels like. But what was it? When it went live in Australia, someone picked it up and said, look, the kit's live, it's definitely this. Christ, that's that's a lot of spies you've got to keep happy, isn't it? So if it does ever get to that point with the women's game, then they'd have a field day with that, I think.
Yeah. Can I just say as well, what a bad kind of let's say a bad couple of weeks Millie would have had, because no doubt she would have been involved with that meeting with the PFA, or she would have at least been part of it in some shape or form. And now Adidas kind of letting her down as well. She's probably just thinking to herself, what's going on with this club here? Finally sort out our manager, who looks like he's going to be announced next week. And Adidas can't even look after, don't even know her name. She must just be pulling her hair out at the moment.
Just picking up a bit of the PFA stuff, because obviously I know what's in the Athletic is pretty damning. And I'm not saying it's all not true. I'm not saying it's true. There is an element of don't believe everything you read in the paper, I think. The truth, if you look at it, it's like everything. If you look at it, I think there's a version of events that Athletic have said it is. There's a version of events that United have said it is. I don't think either is true. I think there's probably something in the middle that's actually the truth. I think it's just, I think Birmingham was in a very bad position last season. All right, it's a different team. I think it is chump change for Manchester United, irrespective of the Glazers. And to be honest, when you listen to some people on the men's side, it sort of varies between the Glazers being people that don't know what they're doing, or people that are in some sort of high castle somewhere going, whoa, how am I going to mess this up? Kind of situation. And I don't think that's true either. They're up, and I think it's so easy for them to put a little bit more money in and have a massive difference. Even from a pure business perspective, if they've been shamed into making things a bit better, they'll make it better and it gets fixed. And that's as far as I think we can get ourselves going. Otherwise, you're just going to drive yourself mad.
Atanu, we spoke about it, didn't we, on your channel? If you just want to shout out that channel, Atanu, because I know that we spoke about that exact topic earlier this week.
Yeah, John and I talked about the recent Athletic articles that have come out, the 2 articles that have come out on my channel, the United Star. So if someone's interested in knowing about what has happened according to the Athletic, so make sure to go over there and check the video out if you want.
Awesome. We'll move on to the last topic, and it's my topic, and it's pretty much along the lines of, out of all the players rumoured to be coming in, how many of them would actually get into starting 11? How strong is their starting 11 going to be next season? So a couple of weeks ago, 4 of us, all for United lot, come up with 5 players who are the most likely to be joining. And I'm just going to name some of them players, and some of them are household names, some of them might not be. But we'll have a word, and we'll just see if they can actually get into the squad. So we'll start off with Vilde Bouvissa. So that deal looks pretty much done back in January. Attacking kind of midfielder, well, box-to-box kind of midfielder, but could also potentially cover Hayley Ladd if ever Hayley's off. Otalu, just started with yourself. If everyone's fully fit, would you kind of see Bouvissa getting into that starting 11?
Okay, so we might have to do some twitches, and so Tooney starts on the right wing. Jackie Groenen starts as the number 10. Hayley Ladd as the CDM, and Bo Riza and as the box-to-box midfielder.
That's the way to get her in, isn't it? And I think as things stand, with no rumours of any wingers coming in, I think Tooney will be the one with Hansen on that right wing, which would free up that another midfield spot. Obviously, it means our captain, Katie Zellin, wouldn't be playing. It means Lucy Stan, who ended the season quite well, she wouldn't be playing. I think our midfield stacked. I think the signing will definitely make our squad stronger. Freddie, I don't know if you know too much about some of these names that we've got to shout out at you, but she is really well thought of. It's just another midfielder joining our already stacked midfield.
It's a curious one. I think. I mean, I don't know. She's from the Norwegian league, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Norwegian,
yeah. So I don't know if she gets in straight away. I mean, probably it will take some time for her to adjust to the WSL. But I mean, with United and I mean, if the last season's injuries continue to happen, then maybe you could see her slot in sooner. But in the formation that I probably won't be able to tell you right now.
I think she's going to be the best signing for us, quality-wise, from what I'm hearing. I mean, we're lucky on this channel. We get to speak to Norwegian journalists. We speak to people a lot more knowledgeable than ourselves on women's football. And I think quality-wise, she's going to bring in a lot. And I think we'll have 6 real good midfielders next season. So if we do get an injury, then we should be okay there. But
I think, John, if she's coming in, of course, we saw last season that after we lost Hayley Ladd, our defense was kind of in a bad state because we were starting Jackie Groenen as the CDM or Katie Zellin as the CDM. So if we get Borisa, so she can be a cover for Hayley Ladd as well. So that would be a fantastic addition.
Andy, do you want to come in on that as well?
I think it's been covered. I think we need to remember about Hayley Ladd. There's 2 things that you have to cover with her: the quality she has as a player, but it's her actual physicality. She's probably our most physical player. Essentially, she's a female version of Roy Keane. But hopefully, actually, I think it's less cards than he did. So it's and I think physicality is definitely something we need to look at in relation to our squad, because the WSL is a physical league. I mean, the pitches aren't as good in the middle of December. It has to be a physical league. I mean, it's a tough league. It's tough weather, at certain points. And I mean, she has a chance definitely of slotting in very well. I think it's going to be interesting next season to see who is going to be our best signing. If Beth England does come in, I mean, it'll be Beth England. If she doesn't come in, based on the other rumored things that are going around, not sure. Could be Borisa, could be even Sophie Bagley. And I'm a massive fan of Mary Earps. That's almost painful for me to enunciate because I think she's a fantastic person and a great goalkeeper. But she's got something about her. She's literally so tenacious. And I mean, I remember when she came up to Leigh Sports Village for Bristol, and Bristol was a terrible team. I mean, just to be honest, they're just terrible. But I think, we counted her down. She was taking nearly 30 seconds to take a goal kick. I mean, apart from that being hilarious and great fun, it's that game management and, using what you've got. She was in a bad team. Before that, she played for Yeovil. She was picking the ball out of the net more than she was doing anything else. But again, she's used to a lot of pressure and she's a good shot stopper. So she might surprise us as well if she comes along.
Well, she was another one on my list, so we can kind of talk about Bagley now, because I think I do think that she'll push Mary Earps. And I think for the first time ever, whoever the manager's going to be, they won't be scared about dropping Mary anymore. The defence is probably going to change around a little bit, and we'll mention another player or 2 that could potentially come in the defence. But all of a sudden, I feel a lot more stronger with our goalkeeper situation, and like you say, Andy, Mary Earps will get pushed. Bagley can quite easily fit in if Mary's off form, and I'm not a big fan of rotating goalkeepers unless it's just maybe one for cups, one for leagues. I don't mind that too much, but I don't think you should be dropping goalkeepers just because they've had one bad game, because then I think you get a bit unsettled. That's just my opinion. But Mary Earps will know that this isn't Rambo anymore, who's hardly played, or Bentley. This is a goalkeeper that's really well thought of in the WSL. And the fans that we chat to on this channel away from Man United who are really rating Bagley, and potentially they're saying that potentially is going to be better than Mary Earps. So
yeah, I mean, she's very tenacious, and she reminds me of Hayley Ladd. She uses all the qualities of the game that she's got, like that sort of time wasting within the rules of the game. I mean, and I just there's something about her character. She's got that, like, as I said, that kind of like tenacious, whistle to whistle performance. And yeah, if we're not careful from a sort of Mary Earps perspective, she could become number one quite quickly. Because I don't think she's going to have been sold would you like to come to Manchester United and sit on the bench? I think, maybe it's going to be a toss-up situation like in, the first part of next season, where it might be one or the other in relation to choosing who's going to be number one. And even Katie Zelem, I mean, again, it's really unfortunate because she's been really good in midfield, but then she got COVID, and I think the player that she is now is totally different than the player before COVID. And, and I personally think that irrespective of who it is, if you're the captain, you should be the first name on the team sheet. If you are constantly struggling to get on the team sheet or get on the subs bench, well, she doesn't struggle on the bench, but if she's always on the subs bench, you can't be the captain. Now, it's not a personal thing to her. It's just a matter of fact, I think. So, again, I mean, I hope that maybe under a new manager, maybe she'll have a new lease of life. I mean, there were certain things that Casey did that everyone looked at. She was not so good at in-game changes. She was good at setting up. She was good at adjusting at half-time. But her subs many a time were too late, or she wasn't good at changing the formation during the actual game itself. And that's really where I think managers earn their money, is reacting to what's going on in front of them. Otherwise, you'd put the team out and they'd go upstairs to the office and you wouldn't see them again until the final whistle. That there is a job for for any manager to do in the first half, in the second half, as well as in the sheds.
I just on that Katie Zelem thing as well. You mentioned that she came back a different player after she had COVID, but Ella Toone has come back a different player as well, because in our second season, she hardly played. She came on as a sub quite a bit. Molly Green came on as a sub. Yeah. LJ came on as a sub, or Jess Sigsworth, whoever played, or Hansen, out of all those. But Toone was just a sub player. All of a sudden, last season, for those first 4 or 5 months, she became one of the first names on the starting 11, and she continued the season really well as well. So all of a sudden now, Katie Zelem's got more competition than ever before. And Bo Reese's kind of plays in that position as well, so it's not going to be easy for the captain to get in. Your thoughts, Atadio, on the goalkeeper situation? I think it's stronger than last season, isn't it? If Bagley comes in,
I think, of course, we need someone to push Mary Earps, because, of course, if there's no pressure, then the player might become less, careless and make some mistakes, and she'll know that I won't be dropped. Personally, I like Emily Ramsey a lot, and I want her to succeed at United. But by the rumors that have come in, she might go out on loan. So adding Sophie Bagley, I might be pronouncing the name wrong because I've heard of her.
I'm English, Matt. I pronounce them wrong all the time, so it's kind of a USP. Don't worry. So just keep going.
If we manage to get that signing, because I've heard that she's quite good, and Maybe she takes over the number 1 spot from Mary Earps if that's the thing United are looking for.
Friday, I just want to relate it to men's football. So you've got like David De Gea and Henderson, a Man United team. Do you want to kind of
about to bring that? Yeah, I was going to bring up that comparison anyway. I think I watched a few of Bristol City's games last season, because it kind of just felt like that was the one game that you'd have like a regular goal fest, especially when you played Chelsea or Manchester City. But in all of that, I think Bagley still, Sophie's kind of, I'm going to use the easier name here. So Sophie's kind of did somewhat prevent it from being an even more of a disaster show, I suppose. There were a few gaps here and there, but she's still young. So in a way, I can understand the move. I can see that and she is a promising young player. I don't think she could have done much with the Bristol City defense in front of her, but I think there is some sort of promise there. I think I can completely understand if Manchester United want to sort of push Mary Earps to kind of perform a lot better. It's always good that there is competition, whether it be in the women's game, even for the men's game. So I can definitely see that happening, and I can see her push for the first spot. I don't know if she's got enough. It'll probably be the cup games initially, like how you see in the men's game. You kind of have like your Dean Henderson or De Gea, whoever right now, but at least initially you have Dean Henderson playing the cup games, trying to sort their feet out, get used to the defense, because putting Sophie right there at the start and making her number one would be disaster, because she doesn't know the defense in front of her as well as probably a Mary Earps does. So you do need time for her to get used to it, because it's a partnership, and goalkeepers especially, they need to know what's in front of them. They need to be vocal enough. They need to understand the players in front and the defenders vice versa. So I can definitely see her play in the cup games where probably, I know Manchester United want to win those cup games, but the pressure might be less as compared to a WSL. But if the WSL season doesn't go that well with Mary Earps there, and you are sort of just playing around for the top, fourth or fifth or something like that, then I can see United, maybe whoever the manager is, maybe giving Sophie a chance, saying, we don't have the Champions League to play for. Why don't you go get yourself into these games, and then we'll see how it goes. I said, turnover is huge in the game, so you really don't know how this is going to end up. If they don't it's somewhat like a Formula One racing driver. They have like contracts for a year or two, but then the next year they find themselves at a different team, and then the next year they find themselves at a different team. So probably something like that.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I agree. If you put Bagley in straight away, you're going to blow up Mary Earps, and you're going to lose the option, because she rightly would have her nose pushed out. And I think she is on number one. And I really, as I say, I really like her as a person, as I met her a few times, and as a player. I think Ramsey is an interesting one, because obviously Annie mentioned that. I think the reason why I've got to be careful what I'm saying here, but I think that the reason why Emily Ramsey has been around as long as she has is because she is a product of our academy, and is pretty much the first one that has come all the way through since United was formed. I've not seen enough to tell me she's ever going to be good enough to be United number one. I think she's the only thing I can see that sticks out as better than Mary is she's very good at a distribution with her feet. So she's good at, that thing we kept doing last season of suddenly passing it back and it being a bit of a nervy kick out. She's very good at that. She's very good at passing to the wingers. But she's a little bit like Bambi on ice when you're actually in the stadium and you actually look at it. Bagley and Mary Earps are a lot closer, in my opinion. And I think, I think I'd be personally gutted, because my favourite players if Mary did get pushed to a number two position but I think objectively as a supporter that it could go either way. It genuinely could go either way, and you are getting a bit of youth back with Sophie because she's a little bit younger than Mary. Not that Mary's old, she certainly isn't. But I think it's definitely a lot closer together in relation to choosing. And just tipping on our defence a little bit, I was looking at some of the players in the launch, which you could argue now if they were on the kit launch, they're going to be here for the season. And there's certainly one mistake that hasn't been rectified. So I'm hoping that we can certainly bolster the defence as much as we can. I think in front of whoever it's going to be as number.
We'll mention the defence now, but just on that Rambo, last I heard she was confirmed to go out on loan, but again, it's one of those things again where it's not been officially announced by the club. so we don't know what's happening. But I think a long deal would definitely do her good, so the club can actually see what she's made of. A WSL club, give her a full season. Let's see how she does, and then potentially she could come back, and then the manager's got a decision to make. Two strikers. So we'll do the two strikers first. Thomas and Simon. So one's more of an out-and-out striker, one's more of a attacking threat. We've spoke to a few people who know them more than us. Ben Gilby, who follows Australian football, rates Simon really highly. He's kind of won me over in regards to what she can bring to the club. It's just one of those things for me where I can't see either of those starting. So at the moment, I can't see Bo Risa starting just yet. I can't see Thomas and Simon starting. I can't see Bagley starting. But Andy, just starting with yourself regarding the strikers and the attacking midfielders, can you see them forcing their way in if everyone's fit?
Maybe. Is Simon involved in the Matildas? I'm not sure. Maybe. I think, and obviously I appreciate, I think Ben was saying that she was on the bench mainly because of her getting COVID and an ACL injury. So, maybe is a short answer. But again, with all this kind of thing, I'd go back and say our best player on the squad by an absolute mile is Leah Galton. And she was out of football before we got her. So sometimes if you can find a player, it doesn't really matter where they're coming from; it's where they're going. With Thomas, again, I couldn't tell you much about it. I don't really watch anything apart from United Women in relation to the WSL. I think a lot of people, like I said last time I was on, are worried about the ghost of Jane Ross because she came from West Ham. They're thinking, oh God, it's not going to be very good. Probably a sub initially. But I think the good thing about a new manager is, and any good new manager I think is going to do this, your first thing you probably say to your squad is, everybody has a chance. If you were a squad player last time, under me, you could be a first team player. If you were a first team player last time, you could be a squad player with me if you don't, join whatever their sort of the ethos is that the manager's going to do. So we might see players, like you were saying before about that were subs last season, that are now first team players. But so maybe Simon, not so much Thomas, but it depends. Mm-hmm. That's a politician's answer.
I am conscious of time, but Faye, did you want to just give your thoughts on those two players, and also Aoife Mannion from Man City? Looks like that deal's pretty much done as well, coming in as a centre back, going from blue to red. She's the only player for me that could potentially force her way into that starting 11.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on those three names that we just thrown out there?
I agree with Andy. I mean, I haven't heard of the other two in terms of I haven't seen them play much, but I think I agree. Right now it kind of does a full circle in terms of going back to who the manager is going to be and what her or his plan's going to be for the team. We could be sitting here and we could be saying that all of the players won't be able to force their way through, and the manager thinks differently, and you see them in the starting lineup. Not the first game, but at least 3-4 games down the line, you see them making their way through. So I could probably I think from the defense point of view, I can definitely see that. I could see it have like her forcing the way through to the team, but I don't think the other two right now. I don't know much about them, but I don't see them kind of making it through. I think probably if Beth England comes in, maybe she gets the nod ahead, but I don't think the other two really would start initially. But again, like I said, I could be wrong about that.
I think that's the way a lot of people think. Atanu, your thoughts on those three players?
Yeah, I think Andy was right in saying that we have a good example of Leah Galton in front of us, who didn't play much football before she came to United, and well, she has been the main player for us during these 3 seasons. So maybe Kaya Simon, if she comes in, she'll perform that role. And as to Martha Thomas, I haven't followed her much during her playing days in West Ham, but I think as a bench player, as a squad depth player, she'll be fantastic. As to Mannion, I think I was talking to Namrata, and she said that Mannion used to be the best centre back 2 years back when she played for Birmingham. So, injuries were the reasons that she didn't play much for City. So I think it will be a good addition because we have seen that there are not many centre backs in this team right now. We've got Maria Torres-Oda, we've got Millie Turner, and we've got McManus who might leave. But I mean, yeah, adding Mannion would be my priority as well after adding a striker.
Andy, let's just finish up with yourself. Mannion, is that someone that you can kind of see actually helping our starting 11?
Yeah, we need as strong defense as we can. I think she's got some big game experience speaking from City, isn't she? So I think, you know, she's got that sort of professional ethos coming across. I just think that, yeah, I mean, it depends on what holes you want to plug, really. It depends, you know, if we get the strikers sorted, then maybe you're going to have some space for some learning in defence. If we don't get the strikers that we think we're going to get, we're going to need, you know, the best we can in defence. So, I'm just supporting what Atano and Freddie was saying, really. I think it would be a good addition.
And I would just like to kind of say regarding, I don't know if many of them, yeah, so I was thinking, I didn't know which way around to put it, Jonathan, whether to put Maria on the right or Mannion. I'm not too sure where Mannion would kind of play because I thought she was a centre-back. I don't know if she plays as a full-back as well, but we've seen Maria plays a full-back, so potentially either or, but yeah, that's probably the four that I would put on there. Freddie, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it's a United channel and you're always willing to come on even though you're a Liverpool fan, and hopefully before the start of the season you can come back on again.
Hey, Liverpool fans are people too, remember. We try
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, no, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me on here. I mean, thank you for having me on here as a Liverpool fan. I mean, it's nice to see us breaking those sort of boundaries in a way. But that's only, I suppose, for the women's game. I still haven't got any word from all for United from the men's team.
If you want to jump on, I'll have a word.
That's fine. Yeah.
No, it's not a problem. Yeah. And also, obviously, going into that new season, if we draw each other in the FA Cup or the Conti Cup, obviously you've definitely got to come on for like a preview or a review show. So we'll
definitely. I'll do my homework before that as well.
Atano, great to see you again, mate. Thank you. I'll probably see you again in the next week or two.
John, thanks for having me today.
No problem, mate. And Andy, I'll see you next Saturday. One time for our little night out, our 100th show, trying to get together. Yeah, Matt leaked it all out yesterday anyway.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you to everybody in the comments. Please share it on Twitter, YouTube, so everyone can start knowing where our page is, our YouTube account. And we shall see you again Saturday night. Ben and Matt, Saturday Night Live. Thank you, guys.